Folks, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. I'll explain. Number one, it's absolutely free, means you don't pay a dime out of pocket. Number two, you can use creation tools to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, like I'm doing with my phone. Number three, if you want to hear it on multiple platforms, Anchor can do that for you. So you can hear it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, among others. And the thing is, you can make money without anybody listening, as little as that. And everything you need to do is to make a podcast is all here. To get started, please download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You'll be glad you did. I am joined by Mike Barber of the Richmond Times Dispatch to preview tomorrow night's game at Hard Rock Stadium, 7:30 ESPN. Mike, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Anytime. A couple of things I was watching before we came on, how Wake Forest dismantled Virginia's defense last week, and Virginia's defense has not been good the first two games of the season.
Yeah, the first two ACC games, and that's
Yeah.
sort of been the shocking thing was, they gave up all of 14 points in their first two games, and that was Illinois and William and Mary, and then they've been absolutely picked apart here by North Carolina and Wake Forest. They've given up 96 points the last 2 weeks. They lost both those games. It was interesting hearing Bronco Mendenhall talk to us after the game following Wake Forest, and he felt like his defense got better. And I got to say, I mean, I went back and watched it.
I saw that tape too, Mike, and I'll tell you, Virginia's defense was terrible.
Yeah, and now they were terrible in a different way, though. And I think that's what Bronco was referring to was if you go back and watch the snaps against Carolina, they gave up a ton of big plays, right? 45, 50, 75-yard touchdowns in that game. That didn't happen against Wake Forest, but they still couldn't slow Wake Forest down. It was more intermediate routes and a lot of running the ball, Daniel. They ran for 203 yards in that game.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. When I look at Virginia, one key to the game I'm looking at here is you talk about the running game. The reason Armstrong was sacked so many times against Wake is because Wake could afford to drop several players back, and they didn't respect the running game as much. In fact, to be honest, they only average 115 rushing yards a game, and there's no running game, and that's starting to impact the passing game. Now you don't have to run 50 times, but my goodness, can you run the football to get the passing game going?
And right now they can't, and they have not established any kind of traditional run game with their running backs. They had been moving the ball well with Brennan Armstrong, but he injured his knee in the Illinois game. He has not been the same player since he hurt his knee in Illinois. Now, he's still great throwing the ball, and he's still pretty elusive, but he's not going to take off and run, and they're not calling designed runs. And then the other thing is Keaton Thompson, the transfer from Mississippi State.
Yeah.
They like to run him. Well, he's playing with a fractured hand and a cast, so they've been unwilling unwilling to hand him the football. So their traditional run game isn't there, and their non-traditional run game is dealing with injuries.
Yeah, the thing with us down in South Florida is one, De'Ara King's hurt. And number two, I mean, the talk is he's out for the season. So look for either Tyler Van Dyke or Jake Garcia to play tomorrow night, probably both, because De'Ara King is not 100%. He injured his knee against Alabama. He first injured his shoulder against App State and then re-injured it against Michigan State. And he didn't play last week against Central Connecticut State. And that's been an issue for us down here.
Yeah, and obviously a huge issue because De'Ara King is kind of what everybody was looking to for why Miami was picked to contend for the Coastal title. And, defensively, certainly what I've seen from Miami has been underwhelming. You kind of throw out Central Connecticut State because that's not much of an opponent.
Not much there.
Yeah, but, I've seen sort of shoddy tackling. I haven't seen much pass rush.
Everybody down here talks about tackling. That's been a major problem here.
Yeah, I bet. And with Virginia's offense, it's funny, Daniel, because this game's been such a low-scoring defensive affair. I'm expecting this to be a much more high-scoring game because neither team looks very good on defense.
No, especially and tackling. Everybody in our fan base and on social media has been saying the same thing. The tackling is a major, major problem. I mean, throw out Central Connecticut, it's an issue.
Absolutely, and the same thing with the pass rush, and I think Virginia's got a lot of the same issues. You know, Virginia is playing a little differently this year. They're playing more 3-3-5 and dropping more guys in coverage. You know, they wanted to get rid of those big pass plays that were such a big problem a year ago. But part of what's happened now is they're not really getting any pressure. They're not really able to blitz because they're dropping so many guys. You know, I don't know if it's the scheme's fault. I think it's sort of the mentality, and the mentality is we need to drop it because we're going to bust coverages. And when you have that mentality, you don't get a lot of pressure, and you can struggle against the run.
Yeah, and another thing I noticed when I watch Virginia is you have a 6'7" tight end who's a matchup problem, and it's going to be a matchup problem in this game tomorrow night against our linebackers who are very young and have not tackled.
Yeah, Jelani Woods, the transfer from Oklahoma State, he is.
We
I
dealt
mean, he
with
is
him in
a.
the bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, he is a real weapon, and they're really learning how to use him. You know, it's funny. He caught a ball. I think it was against Illinois. He caught a ball over the middle, and I thought, oh my goodness, Illinois' safety must be 5'4". He looks tiny.
My
And I
God.
looked him up on the depth chart, and he was 6'2". It's just that Jelani Woods is such a big target. So if they can effectively use him, and another thing to watch, Daniel, is they didn't protect Brennan Armstrong very well this
Yeah, I
past
noticed that
game.
against Wake, especially
They
against Wake.
Yeah, they may keep Jelani Woods in to block more, or at least to chip, and that takes him out of the throw game. They need him as a weapon in the throw game, though. You're right.
Absolutely, I see that guy. That guy's a load to handle. There's no question about it. But another thing I look at, Mike, is the thing is, look, Virginia. People forget 2 years ago, didn't they win the Coastal?
They sure did, and I think they were better in a lot of ways, especially defensively. But yeah, you know, you could make the argument since we didn't have divisions last year that they're the defending Coastal champions.
Absolutely. I mean, I see that. I say One thing I like about Broncos, he's building something there. But here's another thing: your passing game is leading the country, 430 yards a game.
Yeah, they've been outstanding. And you know, going into the year, we all said, hey, Virginia can be pretty good on offense if Brennan Armstrong is a much better player. And he's been a much better player. His confidence, his vision, his understanding of the offense. He's always thrown a great ball, deep ball, intermediate, and the short stuff. But he's just going through his progressions much more quickly, with much more confidence. He knows where to deliver the football pre-snap. He's doing a better job dissecting the defense. Brendan Armstrong has been one of the best players in the nation early on,
Yeah.
and that's saying something because you know he's not obviously on a superpower team.
No, I remember, and the ACC's down this year. I don't
Very
know if you
down.
noticed that. So I think it's wide open in the Coastal this year. Now I've noticed something. The past 3 years, Virginia has finished in the top five in the conference in total defense. Now, granted, last year during COVID they were 10th, but my God, the defense is always has been a strength, has been a perceived strength, and now it's a weakness all of a sudden.
Yeah, you know, they had trouble last year with the big plays. That was really an emphasis to fix that. It's part of the reason, like I mentioned, that they're dropping five defensive backs a little bit more. But yeah, this is a team, and it go back to Broncos years at BYU. You know, this is a defensive coach who likes to play that physical style of football. And this year, when people thought, hey, you know, they're going to be much better, they have not been, and
No,
it's
no.
been two different ways. It's been the big plays against Carolina, and then it's been just getting pushed up and down the field by Wake Forest.
Wow. I mean, and also Carolina too.
Yeah, Carolina, you know, those were so many big plays in that first quarter. I think there were 3 touchdowns for more than 45 yards in that opening quarter against Carolina, and they were just kind of shell shocked. And yeah, they pulled back into the game, but they never really slowed them down in the second half. And then again, you know, Wake Forest, a lot of it was shorter throws, intermediate throws, and running the football, and UVA could not stop them.
And here's the thing: I'm looking at the numbers here. Virginia's games this year, they have gone over the total, like 66. I can 66% of the time. And think about it, they have scored 9 or more points, 35.3 than the Hurricane surrender, which is 26.3.
Yeah, I mean, this should be, I would think, a higher scoring game than we're used to in this series. Again, you know, I think Miami certainly took a step forward against Central Connecticut State, but it is an
Yeah, but
opponent.
that's what it is. It's
Yeah,
Central
exactly.
Connecticut.
But you hope that there's some confidence there, and maybe they shore up the tackling. I think Virginia took a very marginal step forward, at least in not giving up the big plays. But it's a short week for Virginia. A
And
short.
so we for us too.
So they're coming off. It's back-to-back short weeks, and they haven't done that in a long time at Virginia.
It's been a while.
Where
When's the last time that happened?
It's before my time where they had to go short week. Oftentimes, honestly, Daniel, when they get that Thursday game, they get a bye week before it. So they actually have more time to prepare. This time they had the Friday game, so they get the short time to turn around there and then turn around again and play on Thursday. And again, if you're playing well and you're the better team, it's not a big deal. But when you're struggling, and this game to me is a toss-up game, when you get in that situation, yeah, that short prep can hurt you.
Yeah, especially and our coach down and the coach here, Manny Diaz, is under a lot of pressure. I'm sure you've heard by now Herbie and Bears rant on game day about the state of the Miami football program.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear those comments, and then interesting to hear Manny talk. We had the call with him on Monday and with the coordinators, and Manny started out by addressing, sure, there are things that could be improved, but there's a lot of things he likes at Miami. He says he likes the atmosphere at, I guess it's Hard Rock Stadium now. I'm a Dolphins fan, but it's changed names. It's changed names so many times.
So many times, it's like husbands now.
Absolutely, but and I've been there on nights when it's been a good atmosphere and when you do but it's hard to beat an on-campus venue. I get that. And I think that's a lot of what Herbie's talking about is, college football. Part of what's great about it is just how wild the student section can be. And it's tough at Miami. Now there's a lot of great things. You can't tell me that that's not partially wiped out by Miami Beach and South Beach and being right where you are.
Which is, by the way, is further south. In fact, where Miami plays is right on the border with Broward County.
Right. Because when we fly down there, I usually spend one day in South Beach and then come stay up by the airport the second day. Which is always a great trip.
It's up in Fort Lauderdale. Lauderdale's actually closer to Miami Gardens than Miami National.
Exactly. So, I certainly get the criticism, but it is what it is. And we've seen Miami be great in that situation. So I thought Manny addressed it. I thought he took it on and defended kind of the administration, which is smart because, that's your boss.
The administration has taken a lot of big hits on social media, especially our athletics director, Blake James, who many fans want gone, because he has bungled, especially the baseball program and the football programs, and the basketball program, not just football. And if you heard Bear say that on game day as well, he took shots at Blake for going out for his failures in basketball and baseball.
Yeah, and I don't know. Larinagas had some success down there. Certainly, we know him up here from his big run at George Mason, but it hasn't been sustained. And then they got in some of the off-court issues there. Baseball. I know what a big deal baseball when you're in Miami or Florida State or any of those places. It's up there with the other, what we call revenue programs up here. I think the jury's still out though on Manny Diaz. I don't know.
I said the same thing. I say the same thing on Coach Diaz.
Yeah, it takes a little time.
Everybody wants Manny out for some reason.
Well, and it's always easy when things aren't going great to say you want change, but this. I mean, change sets you back. And people here, I cover Virginia and Virginia Tech, and people here at Virginia Tech want to change. And I tell them, be careful what you wish for, because you start over when you bring in a new coach. I think Manny Diaz certainly deserves another year or two. And I'm not ready to give up on Miami this year, although the King injury.
Especially in a down ACC.
Yeah, it's going to still be there for the taking. This is the ACC opener for Miami, so they don't have any blemishes on their record, and everybody else has been getting all checkered up. I'd give Manny I'd at least see how this year plays out before you get.
I've always said, to me, here's the thing with Manny. The thing with Manny is, if he gets to Charlotte, and there's no more excuses, he must get to Charlotte this year. Otherwise, there are going to be those that want him out. But I'm going to say, I'm with you. I would say if he's anything about 6-2 in the conference and over, I think Manny survives. But Blake James has to be fired. You have to get rid of the athletics director first, because you can say fire Manny all you want, but the problem is not Manny; it's above him, Blake James and the board and our board of trustees here, who is taking a lot of criticism here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then the thing for Manny is if you do change ADs, sometimes ADs want their own football coach in there. And
Yes,
that,
I think as I've always said to let the new AD deal with Manny's future.
yeah, and that would certainly ramp up the pressure on Manny. But hey, it's like you said, if he can go out and get to Charlotte, and hey, let's face it, if you get to Charlotte this year, you can win there. This isn't the
Yeah,
same
that's
juggernaut you're running into. You can really change the perception of your program in a hurry this year.
absolutely. This is if you're going to win. If you're going to go after Clemson, Clemson's down, but hey, that's still the same. That's still Clemson. Let's be on. Let's be clear. That's still Clemson. But as for this game, and Mike, I'm going to let you go on this. Give me your prediction tomorrow night.
Yeah, I've got Miami winning a close but high scoring game. I've got Miami winning 38-35. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be fun. I think both teams are going to play better in certain ways. I think you're going to see some improved tackling from Miami. I think you're going to see some improved defense from Virginia. Virginia doesn't play well in South Florida. They haven't in a long time. They haven't won down there since 2011. I think it's
First
going to
of
be a
all,
lot of
game
fun.
against
Yeah, I
home
think it's
game
good.
against Florida.
That's right. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I think Miami prevails in this one 38-35.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to go along the same lines. I'm going to go 34-30 Miami. I think they do just enough. Close game, conference opener. The circle of wagons on a short week. We can't. Now we're going to find out who Miami really is in ACC play. So I'm going to go 34-30 Miami.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Okay, listen, Mike. Thank you very much for coming on. We'll definitely do this. We'll definitely talk again later in the season.
Sounds good. Hit me up when it's time for Virginia Tech.
You got it. Take care, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye bye.